What's up everyone, this is EdTalenti. How are you guys doing? On today's video I'm going to talk about the 6 most essential things that you need to do to get started with music production. I know this might seem like a video for beginners, but I'm sure there's something in it for everybody because I'm going to make some points that I think are very important when it comes to gear and stuff like that. So yeah, stay tuned for the whole video and don't miss anything. Before we get into it, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. I'm posting videos consistently once or twice a week at this point. I'm liking the schedule. I'm going to try to keep it up. So thanks for your support. If you want to hit me up directly, if you want to say hi, if you have a question, whatever, hit up my Instagram. It's the social media that I use the most. Write me a DM and I'll get to it. I promise. I'll respond to everybody at some point. Alright, I don't want this video to be too long, so enough talking. Let's get into it. Alright, here we go. Got my list right here. Let's get it started. So the very first thing that you're going to want to think about when you're starting to think about music production is a computer. Now when it comes to a computer, your first choice is to pick between laptop and desktop, and your second choice is to pick between Mac and Windows. Really, this is preference based and situation based, like it depends on what you do. I like using a laptop because I like to move around. I go from the studio to my apartment and I like working in like different environments. So it's really nice to have my laptop always with me with all my sounds and all my stuff. And I can just kind of have like a portable studio. But a lot of people prefer a desktop solution, maybe because they just live in an apartment and that's all they need, and you know, that's just what they have. So it really depends on what you need and what your situation is. Things to look out for when you're looking into a computer are RAM. First of all, you want to have a bare minimum of 4. 8 is alright, 16 would be great. Anything above that, obviously perfect. And the second thing is a processor. Try to get something that's not too old, not too slow, because otherwise when you go and load virtual instruments and a lot of plugins and Contact and Omnisphere and all that stuff, it's not going to work. So those are your 2 bottlenecks that you have to look out for. Everything else, it doesn't really matter. To pick between Windows and Mac, I mean, I'm not going to get into that. It's up to you. It depends on what you're used to doing and it depends on what kind of software you're planning to use. So no preference there. It's just up to you. So now that you picked your computer, let's move on to number 2, which is your DAW. This is the most important piece of software you're ever going to get because this is what allows you to make music inside of that computer. The main ones that people use for beat making are Ableton and FL Studio. A lot of people also use Logic, and I've seen some guys like Illmind, which is a really big producer, using Pro Tools. So again, this is kind of like a personal preference. None of them do things that the other ones don't do, or at least not on a major scale. Like they have some little details that are different, but mostly it's just about learning how to use it, learning where the buttons are, learning where the things are in the menus and the shortcuts and everything. Once you got that down, they're all pretty much the same as far as functionalities, or they're pretty close at least. So once again, when you have to pick, base it on personal preference, base it on what your friends have, base it on like the people around you, base it on the one that like looks the coolest to you or looks the more approachable. It's up to you. It doesn't really matter as long as when you get it, spend a lot of time on it and really learn how to use it. That's all that matters. DAWs can get pretty expensive, so one thing that I would suggest doing that's going to tie into a point that I'm going to make later is actually when you're going to look into a MIDI controller, when you're going to look into some equipment, they often sell the equipment with a version of Ableton Lite or something else. So when you buy a MIDI keyboard, when you buy an audio interface, when you buy a microphone, there's a lot of things that bundle in a light version of either Pro Tools or Ableton or sometimes some other software. So look out for that. Number 3 is the last item on this list that's absolutely mandatory for you to start producing music. And it's something for you to listen to what you're doing. Now, once again, here you have 2 options. You have headphones and you have studio monitors. It depends on what you're trying to do and what your budget is. I've seen people succeed with either one. I use a combination of both. I use monitors usually as like a reference. I like to use crappy monitors. I am not planning on upgrading because I feel like if I can make it sound good on crappy, cheap monitors, then it's gonna sound even better on like better equipment and stuff. If I make my mix on like really, really good monitors, then it's gonna sound great on those, but it might lose a little bit of that quality when you transfer it to something that's not as high quality. I've seen people like Cody, for example, which is a really big internet producer, one of the biggest ones out there. In an interview with BeatStars, he talked about how he basically built his entire empire, his entire career on the little white like earbuds from Apple, the ones with the tangly cable, like the real crappy ones. A lot of people are getting on board with that. It's like if you can make, especially when it comes to beat making, if you can make your stuff sound good on really crappy gear, then you're probably golden. Because ultimately, you know, when a song goes out, when a song goes to an artist or whatever it is, they're not going to listen to it on like these super nice speakers generally. People listen to music straight from their phones. People listen to music from those Apple earbuds or an equivalent one. You don't want it to just sound perfect on like these super high-end speakers, because not a lot of people use that. And ultimately, when people go and listen to it from here, if it's not punchy, then, you know, it's not good. Now, I have 3 more points to make. We're getting into non-mandatory territory here. So these are things that are nice to have, but they're not absolutely necessary once you have the first 3 steps. So number 4 is a MIDI controller. There are obviously a jillion MIDI controllers out there for all price ranges and everything. So if you have the budget, go and buy what you like. But since we're talking about something like on a budget to get started, like something easy and cheap that you can get going with, I'm going to suggest this guy right here, which is my faithful Akai MPK Mini Mark II. I am not sponsored by Akai yet, but I love their product. I love this thing. It was my first MIDI controller that I bought, what is it now, 3 years ago or something, and I've been using it ever since, every day. It's indestructible. It's still in perfect condition. It costs $100, and it's got pads, it's got keys, it's got knobs, it's got everything. And even if you're like super new, you can learn how to use pads, you can learn how to use keys, and eventually you start learning what you like. So eventually you can be like, wow, I want a nicer pad controller or a bigger pad controller. Now you know. Because when you're starting, you don't really know what your workflow is going to look like at the end. So this got a little bit of everything, and you can really experiment, learn what you like, and then eventually maybe you're going to want to upgrade to something else. On a side note, I know Arturia has another model, I think it's called the MiniLab Key or something like that, that is very similar to the Akai one. 25 keys, it's got the pads, it's got the knobs, it's $100. That one's really good too. I had a chance to try it a couple times and it's awesome. So yeah, either one works, but just get something where you're not spending a lot and focus on learning on that. That's actually kind of like the theme of this whole video. It's like, don't focus on spending money, like don't spend money on equipment at first, because it's gonna be kind of like wasted. It's not time for that yet. Buy something easy and buy something where you can like practice. And once you get good, once you know what you like, because at first you don't know what you like, you don't know what you're gonna like. So experiment, learn, and eventually upgrade to exactly what you need. If you buy a MIDI controller, chances are it's going to come with Ableton Live Lite, it's going to come with some sample packs, some like sounds. So yeah, just find something with like a little bit of good stuff in the bundle, spend like $100, and you already covered DAW, MIDI controller, sounds, you'll be great. Step number 5, audio interface. Now, an audio interface is going to be used for a variety of things. The first thing you're going to use it for is to connect your studio monitors to your computer. Especially if you have like a laptop that doesn't have a lot of like inputs and stuff, it just has like the headphone jack. You need something to convert that to like a USB or something, or a Firewire or a Thunderbolt or whatever you use. So audio interface is going to allow you to do that. Plus, audio interfaces have inputs, which means that if you want to record a voice, if you have a microphone and you want to record like some vocals, or you want to record some talking or whatever, you want to sample something with a microphone, you want to plug in a guitar and play, you want to plug in a bass. So whatever it's in the real world and you want to put it into your DAW, you want to record it, you're going to need an audio interface for that with some inputs. One that I always tend to recommend is this Focusrite Scarlett 2i2, I believe it's called. I have the Mark 1, but I think there's a new Mark now that has like some more knobs to control headphone sounds and headphone levels and stuff. But I've had this one for 3 years right now, and it's great. It works perfectly fine. It's my only audio interface. It's got 2 inputs. The preamps on this are really good because, you know, they're Focusrite, so they're really high quality. I've recorded all kinds of stuff through here. I use the plugs in the back here to put in my studio monitors, and it comes out as a USB. So it's cheap, it works great, and they have a really nice bundle that comes with a pair of headphones, which are pretty nice, and it comes with a microphone too, a condenser mic that you can use to record vocals or samples or whatever. And I think the whole bundle is probably like, let me check the price actually. As of today, it's about $200. So with $200, you get audio interface, headphones, microphone. Awesome. On to the last point, which is number 6, and it's software. Now this is kind of a rabbit hole. It's really dangerous to go down that path because there's endless software out there. And if you start buying plugins, if you start buying virtual instruments, and you start buying effects, you get into that, you're going to spend so much money so fast. So my advice on this is try to identify what you actually need and focus on that first. And eventually you're going to start, you know, expanding your library. But like, try to think about your sound and the sound that you're trying to go for, and learn what producers use out there to make that sound, and learn how to use it. Another thing that it's worth investing into is sample packs as far as software. Find your favorite producers out there, figure out if they have sample packs out for like drums, for 808s, for melodies, whatever, and go get those. Because first of all, you're going to be supporting other producers, which is always nice. And second, you're going to get sounds that you like and that you can use immediately, like percussion loops, like snares and kicks and 808s. And you can immediately get to a sound that's closer to what you were imagining at first. Alright, these were my 6 points that I wanted to make. So once you have your first 3 covered, you can already start producing. And as soon as you have wanted to invest in 4, 5, and 6, you'll be golden. Alright, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you liked it, please don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell. Hit that bell so you don't miss my next uploads. If you have something to say about this, if you have some gear that I forgot to mention or something that you really like that you want to talk about, don't forget to write something in the comments and I'll be more than happy to respond. Also, if you want to hit me out privately, if you want to just say hi, if you have a question or whatever it is, hit up my DMs on Instagram, which is the social media that I use the most. It might take me a second to respond, but I promise I will respond to everybody. I will get to it. Alright, this is it for today. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you next time. And as always, be positive and positive things will happen.